Hello, and welcome to our summit. You are not your trauma. Break free from the past, rapidly heal negative patterns, and finally step into your calm, authentic, and lovable self. I'm your host, Genevieve Solomon, and I'm thrilled to introduce you to our guest today, Tanja Diamond. Tanja Diamond is a master life strategist, biohacker, and Tantra lineage holder. She helps people get unstuck in love, sex, and money. Her visionary work in healing and optimizing the nervous system boasts a 99% success rate in transforming trauma and unwanted behaviors and has impacted over 82,000 people in 60 countries. Tanja is a four-time #1 international best-selling author, speaker, and innovator of 3 highly effective and successful personal development programs. Welcome, Tanja.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, it's so nice to have you.
It's awesome to be here. Thanks for putting this on.
You're very welcome. So, Tanja, can you tell me a little bit about what brought you into the healing world and allowed you to be so successful in in discovering and implementing these transformative processes?
Absolutely. I came from a traumatic childhood and am on the autism spectrum. So life was pretty brutal and weird and rough in the beginning. And so when I hit my teen years, I was already in nervous breakdown mode. And in my late teens, I put a gun to my head and pulled a trigger. Mm-hmm. And weirdly, I'm here. And the bullet was laying beside me undamaged. It's a mystery. Don't even know what happened today. But I was so perplexed by, 1, why did I get to that state? How did that even happen? And 2, what the heck happened that I was still alive, that I decided to embark on this quest of like, okay, how do I heal myself? How do I figure out what kind of, if this was a mystery, what happened? I'm a very science-oriented person. So it's like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. So I embarked on this major journey and I've lived all over the world. I've studied with witch doctors in Africa and shamans in South America and Russia and certified in like 50 plus healing modalities, 50,000 hours of certifications and other things. And so just used my brain, which is kind of like a research machine, to go out and try to find answers to all these things. Did, talk therapy, did this. I mean, if you name it, I've probably done it. And including things like, being wrapped up in weird animal urine and chanted over. And so I have left no stone unturned, both in the scientific world that we see as normal, medical type of thing, and then the other world, which is out there with all sorts of stuff. And it became really clear to me that if we don't heal holistically, and we say that word, but we're still like a little bit at odds with what that means. But starting with the nervous system, which is really responsible for all our chemistry and all the different things that happen within our body. And it happens faster than we can ever think about. So if we don't start with the foundation of healing our nervous system, we're going to be chasing our tails. And here's the other thing that I found that was so intriguing is that when your nervous system is shot, a tiny little bit of relief feels like transformation. And so what happens is you have this, it's a huge bar, it's a low bar, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that felt good. And then you just automatically think you're better, and you might be a little bit better for a little bit, but then everything will come cascading back. And so then you'll go, try to find some other thing because that didn't work or you're too broken. Eventually you're going to think you're too broken to heal or that healing takes a long time, but it doesn't actually.
I really resonate with everything you're saying, both as somebody who was on the journey of healing myself and as a healer who works with people who very often come to me feeling that way, and even after working with me sometimes feel that way, that they haven't quite gotten the relief that they need or the long-term relief that they need.
Yeah, the sustainable, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so what are some of the things that you have found that really fortify a person so that they feel that when they engage in these healing modalities, it has more of an effect that is true healing.
Yeah, and that is an interesting word, like true healing, right? Like, what does that actually mean? And I want to clarify that for our conversation. That means that you're no longer triggered by the things that you were triggered about, and
Mm-hmm.
that your life feels peaceful, your nervous system feels calm. And if you get it delivered some news that's shocking or have something happen, that literally your nervous system recalibrates within 20 minutes to an hour. So if you have something happen and you're blown out for the day, your nervous system is not doing well.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be it. So if your nervous system is chill, it's called resilient, and you have
Mm-hmm.
things that happen and you're able to calibrate them, then you can say that those traumas are healed. And if you're not triggered by things that you used to be. So what I found really needed to happen was first getting your nervous system back to a resilient state, right? Without it being in a resilient state, you're constantly at the point of maybe re-triggering yourself or re-traumatizing yourself through doing things that you think are good for you, but they're not. So for instance, we all have read now, cold showers, cold plunges. Never do that if your nervous system is dysregulated. It's actually too shocking, and it'll give you relief in the little short time, but overall you're actually re-traumatizing your nervous system over and over again. But I think the key to it all, and we had a little conversation about this, is the learning self-healing tools first. Taking control of your own healing first before you engage in anything or anybody. And that can be as simple as learning the vagus nerve breath.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to expand upon that if you'd like.
Yes,
Yeah,
if that's something
absolutely.
that you could teach people right now,
Yes.
that would be amazing.
100%. So your vagus nerve is the largest nerve in your body. It starts in the side of your face and it runs all the way through your heart and your digestive organs down to your sex organs. And this nerve really is highly responsible for how you are reacting and how calibrated your nervous system is. There's high vagal tone and low vagal tone. And the breath, super simple, you can use it anytime you want, is 2 short an inhale. It's 1 inhale for a count of 2, and it sounds something like right through the nose. And then pursing your lips like you're blowing out birthday candles. You want to, as long as you can.
So shorter inhale,
So,
longer out
right,
breath.
inhale through the nose, 1, 2, exhale through the mouth, as long as you can, dropping your shoulders and just relaxing and breathing and blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing. Right. And then inhale to the 2 shorts and then blowing out, exhale. Yeah. So the key is that the exhale is at least 8 times longer than the inhale. Do not go or you'll like hyperventilate and
Mm-hmm.
pull over within about 4 or 5 breaths. So it's a gentle process. And what happens when you do that is when we're exhaling, our pulse rate drops. So inhaling, it goes up. Exhaling, it goes down. We need less blood pumping. And so by the actual action of doing that, we're helping our body downregulate and start to calm down. So you can do that anytime you want. I always suggest 5 minutes a day, first thing in the morning, every single day, no matter what. People go, oh, I'm too busy. 5 minutes, people. 5 minutes a day, 7 days a week, no matter what, because healing your nervous system is about a cumulative over time experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe in these micro practices that are not more than 5 minutes a piece because most people don't have time for hour-long practices. You know, I mean, like who needs another hour-long practice? And most people that are dysregulated can't hold it together long enough. Like meditation, I always love the trying to meditation that most people do. Yeah. That's not, it just trains your brain to try to meditate. I'd rather everybody cut it down to 30 seconds of actual meditation than do an hour long of trying to meditate. Right. So if we did with a dysregulated nervous system and having trauma, we just really need to bring everything down to kind of micro practices.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be more successful, and cumulative over time means that you'll get sustainable healing, sustainable changes. Yeah. And of course,
that's great. And so the vagus nerve micro practice in the morning.
yeah.
Anything else that's some easy practice somebody could grab to help regulate their nervous system?
Absolutely. So on the topic of meditation, because I'm going to be doing a TEDx talk on it's not your fault if you're struggling to meditate. And a lot of us know we're supposed to be meditating. And a lot of people with dysregulated nervous systems fail at it and struggle with it and then think there's a problem. And the problem is, ancient practices weren't created for modern day nervous system healing. So ancient practices were created for people who had resilient nervous systems to elevate their energy to the heavens like the lotus through the mud. We are already too elevated today. We do not need that kind of energy. So I take these ancient practices and restructure them for today's modern day nervous system. Mm-hmm. So when you are doing any type of practice that is like meditation, breath work, yoga, any of these, you actually want to start visualizing your energy flowing outward, not up and down. Mm-hmm. Up and down causes contraction in the mind and the physical body. You become squished like a tube, contracted in a linear space. And what happens with that is it signals all the nerves from the top of your skull to the top of your hip that you're in danger. So let's try something different. So if we take our hands and we hold them, you won't be able to see my hips, but if you hold your hands like this down at your hip level, so put your hands facing towards you and then drop them to your hip. As soon as you do that and start visualizing think about your hands, go ahead and just feel where your hands are. They're out past your hips. Put them like a good ways away with a little bend like this. Feel your hands. Just think about your hands. And then feel your body going out to reach your hands. Yeah, most everybody will feel this almost instantaneously as you just concentrate on your hands and then your body flowing towards your hands at the hip area. Your entire nervous system starts calming down almost instantaneously. Yeah, right? It's amazing. It's beautiful. And it's like, wow, okay. So that's pretty darn simple. I like super simple things that work. I really believe that things should work well, and you'll know they're working because you feel them working right away. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're very disconnected from your body, which a lot of people in trauma are, they're usually up in their heads thinking about things, right? Yeah. The energy's high. You may not instantaneously feel, you cognitively won't feel that, but this works 100% of the time, unless you're a sociopath. So every practice that I teach people works on everybody except sociopaths. And that's because they're integrated.
What's that, 1% of the population?
Yeah, very small percentage, right? Yeah. And most sociopaths won't be listening to this. So
that's right. If you're listening to this, chances are you're not a sociopath.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, we can tell you that you might feel like a sociopath. You might feel as disconnected as you think a sociopath is, but you're not, because you wouldn't be looking for trauma healing. So just feel good about that.
Thank you. I love all of these practical tips. And I also like how you really understand like what are some of the challenges that people encounter in healing. And you were telling me some of them and I was like, yep. Would you tell us what are the most common challenges?
Yeah, the most common challenges people have when they're going to try to get healing. Number one is expense. Like when I first started trying to heal, I was making $8 an hour way back, 50 years ago or whatever. I'm old. And they were charging $100 for talk therapy an hour, and I was making $8, and then I had to take off work and everything. So we all know that it's expensive to go out and attempt to find healing. Another reason why I believe self-practice is in your hands, is learning how to heal yourself is so imperative, right? Because I want everybody to be able to do that. So time consuming, right? You got to, first of all, the whole research, like what should I do? Who should I find? Who should I talk to? Then trying people out, then finding out they're not working for you or whatever. Traveling, taking time off work. It's all related to the time consuming. And then if people are giving you hour-long, I have clients that are going to 4 different practitioners. Each one of them is giving them an hour plus practice to do every day. Who's got time for that? I don't have time for that. So that can be time consuming as well. So this is why 5-minute practices are so beneficial, right? Because we can all fit those in. Niche healing industries. The more niche we get, the less healed we are, because we are not we can feel compartmentalized, but our body works in a holistic way, meaning your chemistry, you have to work on things in the right order at the same time, which then if you think about the time in healing, if you were doing traditional, let's say you put 5 different practitioners that one dealt with the emotional, one dealt with the physical, one dealt with the mental, one dealt with the spiritual, one dealt with the chemical, and you would never make it, right? You wouldn't be able to find 5 practitioners, afford them, and spend all the time you could trying to do their things. Instead, one practice, like the vagus nerve breath, hits 3 to 4 of those. So looking for practices that actually hit every aspect you need to in the order that you need to hit them in, so that it helps the body actually responds better. If you start from the top down, like talk therapy down, your body doesn't respond the same way as when you start from the chemical up. Makes sense, right? So yeah, and then there's the dynamic, the weird one that really people love it when I talk about on podcasts, which is your subconscious and chemical reaction to a practitioner. Now, I get as practitioners, we don't like to hear this, right? Because we want people to come to us. And what happens though is if your nervous system's dysregulated and you walk into a room or even on Zoom calls, you will respond to your practitioner, the dynamic of another person, because that's what we do. So if that other person, if you're in the same room with them, pheromones, chemistry of smell is happening. Visual representation of the practitioner, if you find them attractive or not attractive, the way the room's set out, all of these things have potential triggers. And so once again, back to if you're doing your own healing work first, you help your nervous system become more regulated. You will know these things when they happen and you'll understand what to do with them. And so that'll help. So you could go to the best practitioner in the world and not get the healing you needed, not because they weren't good, not because their modality is not good, but because your response to the dynamic of what's happening is dysregulated.
But if you are able to regulate your nervous system, then you will notice when it starts getting responsive.
Right. You'll go, whoa, okay, there's a trigger, and you'll understand whether or not it's time to push into that or back away from it. And that's the other problem with healing, is that we want to be good students. I mean, when I was on my healing journey, I would do anything anybody said. Crazy stuff that I should never have been doing, things that re-triggered me, that re-traumatized me over and over again, because I thought, well, they say that's good for you. Take cold water plunges, for example. That's all the rage right now. Cold water to, ice baths, right? Wim Hof. Wim Hof is actually doing an old Tantra technique. And really, if your system is dysregulated, you do not want shocking things. Now, if you're regulated, those shocks are okay because your nervous system will recover. Remember what I said in the beginning about the recovery time? So let's take 2 people. One's dysregulated, their nervous system's traumatized, and the other person's fine and they're resilient. You throw them both in an ice bath, right? The person with the regulated nervous system, their nervous system will go, wow, what is this called? Blah, 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 blah. And then it'll start downshifting as it's supposed to. And by the time they get out and then the rest of the day, they're feeling really, really good. The other person dysregulated, hits the cold plunge, their nervous system freaks out, they immediately get triggered, their adrenaline, everything stays high, because remember, they don't calibrate, and they feel kind of okay, but mostly what they feel is re-traumatized without realizing they're re-traumatized. And then they go about their day and they feel fatigued later, and they're not associating the cold plunge with the fatigue because their nervous system can't regulate itself and recalibrate itself quickly. So that was a trauma.
And so they're not necessarily getting re-traumatized into their traumatic past stories. It's just that their nervous system gets out of the realm. I've heard people talk about the window of tolerance, right? So it just gets, right?
Right. They're out of tolerance to begin with, and they can't reset because they're not regulated. So a traumatized nervous system doesn't reset. It just becomes even more overwhelmed. And so if you feel like you're struggling, with meditation or all of these things that are good for you, that you keep reading are good for you, and you're thinking you're just broken, it's not. It's just that most of these things were created for people with regulated, resilient nervous systems.
Mm-hmm.
With your regulated nervous system, when you do a cold plunge, like I said, it has the shock. It's supposed to. That shock then recalibrates and downregulates your nervous system if it's healthy. And you go about your day feeling awesome. Meditation, same thing. If you can actually meditate instead of trying to meditate, then meditation is good for you. Otherwise, if you're traumatized and your nervous system is dysregulated, trying to meditate is actually a trauma.
Mm.
Because you're trying and you're just and you keep, then you're going to say, oh, I can't do this, and you leave. I talked to tons of meditation teachers that they're like, oh my God, thanks for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I leave my meditation going, okay, I tried. I've just 45 minutes sitting there. Just do it for 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Do it for 30 seconds. It's more beneficial than doing it for an hour when you're not.
It's funny. I'm listening to you. I was laughing before, not at trauma, but
Right.
just I was laughing because, well, first of all, I love to meditate. It does not re-traumatize me. But I like to go to a sauna where you go a very, very hot room and then jump in the cold plunge because I think it's good for me. And there have been many times where I have been just enjoying the day at the banya is what it's called.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden I have like a panic come. Mm-hmm. And now I'm realizing it's because it's...
All right. Well, that was a great catch.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. I find myself there being like, why do I always feel like I have to like calm myself down when I'm here? But that now I understand.
Yeah. And so the beautiful thing about this is, clearly you've done enough work that you have the awareness to realize I'm feeling edgy or aggro or something's going on here. And now you can like, oh, yeah. Even fasting, which is good for us, very good for us. And it is really good for you if you've got trauma, unless you're really dysregulated. There's levels, there's 5 levels of your nervous system being. And if it's down, just totally dysregulated, almost all of these things are going to be hard. Mm-hmm. As you move closer to resilience in your nervous system, you can take on more things and you can then verify with yourself if they're working for you and how well they're working for you.
That's so helpful. And we were talking a little bit about, well, I think we still have a few things to say about issues with or challenges to healing. We were talking a little bit about the time for sessions.
Yeah, arbitrary session times and whatever. So on my, going down the path of how the nervous system heals and stuff like that, I found it really interesting because, look, hey, and I've been a practitioner of many arts and I've done hands-on work with many people and I've had to go back and go, hey, guess what? That was really a dumb thing. That's hopefully we're all evolving, right? As healers and teachers and things, and we're learning more. And when we learn, we can go look back and go, well, I was doing the best I knew at that time for this. Which is why I've, switched to self-healing tools for everybody first, right? So arbitrary times, like what is this hour session? What is this once a week thing? Like there's nothing to do. I did a deep dive into going, how did this even come up? And what is this all about? Nothing to do with your nervous system healing. Nothing to do with healing trauma. In fact, I used to freak out in talk therapy because like most people, you're doing that 50-minute session or whatever, and you never start really getting into it until minute 45,
mm-hmm,
right? Like,
sure.
I don't know, like right at minute 45, all of a sudden you've chilled out, whatever's happened. And now you're ready to and they're like, and the time is up. And couples therapy, worst ever. That's the way you leave wanting to gut each other at that point. But yeah. And so it just seemed a little bit odd. So once again, the nervous system heals in consistency, everyday practice of consistency of doing things, not in those hour-long sessions, right? Now, so then, Tanja, do you still do hour-long sessions? Heck yeah, yes, because that's what everybody's used to. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing I noticed was when I did hands-on healing work with animals, and I spent 15 years working with horses and parrots, horses in particular. But I would go there and we'd schedule an hour, right? And I would start working on the horse. And sometimes in 5 minutes, the horse was done because they'd take this huge, deep sigh. Their entire body would relax and their lower lip would hang and their breathing would change. And I realized they're done. Like anything else I do now is not enhancing what's going on. When I look back at the owner and I'm thinking the owner feels like they paid me for an hour, right? Or 50 minutes or whatever the heck it is. Really what they're paying me for is the horse feeling better, healing the horse. So I remember the first time I was brave enough to step back and just take my hands off the horse and walk over and the owner's looking at me and she's like, well, what are you going to do now? And I said, well, we're done. And she goes, it was 5 minutes. And I said, look at your horse. And he never stood like that and crossed eyes. So she was like, I've never seen him like that. I'm like, he's done. I said, do you want some work on you? I mean, like,
I'm here for the hour.
Right. I mean, right. So I think understanding that part too, so we're kind of stuck in a weird thing with that too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's interesting because, we can go to healers, please. I noted, I recognize that you have healed and you have something to share and something to give. And I need to continue on my own daily and even moment for moment to whatever the practices are. Like, so it's okay, I feel like, for an hour. Well, usually mine are longer because I feel the same way. It's like after an hour, I feel like I'm just getting into it. So I just have longer sessions. But that like, you're right. It doesn't have anything to do with how often, or the practice is yours and the responsibility and the commitment is yours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because I'm sure it's super cool to hang out with you. It's super cool to hang out with me. People love to do that. And I always tell them, hey, I know you're looking forward to talking to me or whatever we're doing, right? Yet it's so much more important what you're doing between the times we're together. And so, in that way, putting the accountability and the onus back on the person, because ultimately that builds our self-trust and self-commitment, which are the bottom rung of what we need to heal first if we want to learn self-love and these other things, in my version of what I teach.
I have to agree with you. I absolutely have to agree with you there. Self-trust and self-commitment are paramount to the whole experience of self-healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because those are the things that were taken away or out of our control, or we've lost, is those abilities. And once we regain those abilities, and that's through like saying, I'm going to do this practice, take the vagus nerve. So if you all want to start right now, take the vagus nerve breath. And vagus, by the way, is V-A-G-U-S, not what Vegas stays in Vegas. No. V-A-G-U-S. So take the vagus nerve breath. Commit to 5 minutes every single day, no matter what. And I do it if I'm in the hospital, I do it after surgery. It doesn't matter. I'm doing this breath every single day. Say it with me. Every single day, 7 days a week, 5 minutes. We all have that. Set a timer, do it. Yeah. You can do it other times too. When you feel all of a sudden you're really nervous or you're starting to panic or you're feeling just spaced out, just do that for a bit. But that, if you trust yourself to do that and you commit yourself to do that every single day, what happens is you're like, oh, I've got this. I keep my word to myself. Everybody's looking for trust outside of themselves. Yeah, you got to trust yourself first. Without trusting, right? Without trusting yourself, you're always going to be questioning everything because you're looking for safety outside of yourself, and there is no such thing. Really, we're all capable of hurting somebody. We're all capable of being stupid. We're all capable of making mistakes. And the reason that I can go do anything I want is because I trust myself to be okay and to be able to heal whatever happens if I'm out doing things that somehow, are edgy.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you learn that you can trust yourself by building trust with yourself, the way that you would build trust with another person, you have to build trust with yourself, that you are committed to yourself. You're always going to stand up for yourself. You're not going to abandon yourself.
Yep.
Then all of those other things, the higher consciousness experiences, you also get to practice and learn and trust and then you can, oh, I am the source of my love. Yeah. I am able to choose joy. I can forgive anything, really,
I can self-soothe. I can, if I ask for something from somebody and they can't give it to me, I don't feel like, oh my God, I'm alone in the world. That whole feeling of self-isolation is what you hit on, which is self-abandonment. As soon as we abandon ourselves, it's really difficult to feel connected to anything. So these practices also get you back in your body. And I would say you brought something interesting up. It's the higher conscious practices. I would really say to people, get into your body first, and not like if you feel like, oh, I'm all blissed out. So high arousal is also, by the way, bad for your nervous system. And so you might be some person who's like, discovered neo-tantra or discovered things. It's like, oh, it's bliss and arousal and la 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 and this. Those things are great after you're grounded and regulated. But if you go there first, while you're just going to feel quote unquote blissed out, which, you know what, before you die, those are the neurochemicals that happen too. So just saying that bliss while you're dysregulated can actually traumatize the body into thinking that it is dying. So there's so many things that are happening that get into your body, get grounded. Don't do practices that are up. Do practices that are wide, like we talked about that wide practice. Don't do practices that are streaming to the heavens or down into the earth. Go wide. In your yoga, go wide. In your breath work, go wide. Visualize everything taking up tons of space. You take up space around you, because contraction tells the nervous system things are having a problem, while width and outward tells your body, relax. We're okay. Think about melting on a beach, or in the grass with the sun on you. You widen, you melt. And that is what you really want to concentrate on in any type of visualizations.
Thank you so much. I feel like I learned so much from this conversation, and I'm going to keep that in mind. Go wide, go wide.
Go wide. Go wide, go wide. Yep, absolutely.
Would you tell everybody about the free gift that you're offering for spending time with us today?
Absolutely. So I'd like to give you guys a Resolve Your Trauma Symptoms. It's actually a video training, and it goes over some of these very things that we're talking about today and how to really get started on becoming your own self-healer. And so that'll be a video training. And yeah, it's not a sales webinar, just so everybody is clear. It's actually just 100% me giving you the tools that you need to get started on this healing journey.
Thank you. That's incredibly generous and helpful. And I love when people see evidence that they have already everything within themselves to heal. You've got your breath. Everything is so going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be okay. And literally, if you start with the practices on the training, you will really, it happens pretty fast. Even if you've been to everybody and it's been 40 years and whatever, I specialize in those people. You've got you, and you'll be really surprised, and it just helps anything else you're doing. So I'm not saying stop everything you're doing, but I am saying if you include those, every practitioner you see, anything you do will be enhanced by that.
Absolutely. I'm going to grab mine. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
And thank you all for joining us at our summit, You Are Not Your Trauma, where we are discussing the healing journey from trauma recognition to creator of your reality. Thank you again. Goodbye.